Hello, so I'm going to walk over the demonstration of the apps for part 1 and part 2. Right now I'm not sure if you can hear it, but the M5 is vibrating ever so slightly, as well as making very low noise. And then if I use my proximity sensor, I get closer to it. There's 5 different levels. I don't know if you can hear the vibration, but the noise is louder and more frequent. And if I get closer, it's louder and there's more vibrations as well. Hopefully my phone's picking that up. And then if I get even closer, it's becoming more frequent again, and then also louder. And then if I get even closer, it's really fast and really loud, and the vibrations are a lot more frequent. So now I'm going to go ahead and change my program. So now I'm going to go over part 2 of the lab. So you can see here, if I move my joystick left or right, it moves the blue dot left or right, up and down as well. As you can see here, it's also bounded by the screen's width and height. And then if I want to make my blue dot go faster, I can click I believe that's the start button, and it makes it go faster. And there should be 5 different speeds. And then when you get past 5, it goes back to the first speed. And this all works the same for the red dot, but with the D-pad. So as you can see here, I can move up, down, left, and right. And then I have the same speed. Speed settings, and then the red dot is also bounded by the up and down as well, or the screen's width and height, I should say. And yeah, it goes back to 1 when you go past 5. And then when you collide the 2 dots, you get the game over screen. So it's essentially all the functionality to demo for this. And so I'm going to go ahead and walk through the code. So here are the different vibration levels. I have 5 vibration levels, 5 frequencies, 5 sounds, and then 5 delay values. And that's essentially to get the levels of different varying levels of how intense the sound and vibrations are, as well as the frequency of that as well. Just gonna close that. And that's what the toggle is for as well. So the setup is for setting up the serial output, getting the speaker to work, and then checking if it's working, and then setting up the VCML 4040 as well. So here's the proximity sensor. This is where the level is set for the proximity, because the proximity has a lot of varying numbers it can be. So this groups into 5 different levels essentially. And then this part here essentially allows it to loop at a given time, so that it's easier for it to, I guess, like reset and then have a cleaner pacing, I guess. It's a good way to put it. So here's the way that it starts the vibration and stops it. Essentially, we'll toggle it through this if and else loop. If we didn't have this if and else loop, it would just be one long noise and vibration. So that makes it have like a little point of vibrating and making sound. And then right here is where we set the vibration and volume and tone that we want. Corresponding to, of course, the different arrays. And then again, it turns it on, and then this turns it off, so that we get that frequency that we're looking for instead of just having one solid sound and solid vibration. So that's everything I want to show for part 1 of the lab. Now I'm going to go ahead and run part 2 of the lab. Code a little bit. Um, so here essentially just the code that I got from their repo. Um, Here's the speed of red and blue, and then the screen width and screen height, and then the value saying if the game is over to draw the game over screen. Um, is the initial positions of both red and blue when the game starts. Um, and then last button, essentially what that does is if we didn't have this value, whenever we press select or start, it would go more than one because the more you hold it, the higher the value goes. So essentially last button helps to make it only go to one, only increment by one value when you click it once. And then increment speed, essentially, it takes in a current speed and then just increments it by one. And if it's more than five, it just returns one. Um, Update position, essentially just update position and make sure that the position's inbound. Draw screen draws a white background and then draws both the circles with their position with the size of 3. And then our points touching essentially determines if the red and blue dot are at the same position, and if it is, it returns true so that the game can end. And then game over screen is simply just a screen that has the game over text in red. So here's some initial setup. You get the screen width and screen height, and then we have serial. Um, and then here's just the serial for getting the seesaw set up, making sure it's set up. Then I believe this is also just for the gamepad as well that I got from the repo. So I'm not too sure what that does, but the setup here also draws a screen, which initializes the white background and the starting points of the 2 dots. So then in the loop, we have the if not game over. So essentially this is when the game is still playing. We have the delay so that we can see things move. And right here, this value is for the joystick. So essentially the joysticks have like very large values that don't necessarily correspond to the screen width and screen height. So essentially what this part does is it kind of maps it into values that determine if the joystick is going up, down, left, or right. And then depending on that, we can use it here and determine if we need to update the position of blue up, down, left, or right. And then here, I think this is from their repo as well. And then this just does stuff to interact with the buttons on the D-pad or the gamepad. And again, this is pretty much the same logic as the joystick. It looks like A, B, Y, and X, and then it corresponds to the right, down, left, and top. And then here, essentially, is when you press either start or start or select, I believe. When you click start or select, it will only increment in one instead of, like I previously mentioned, it incrementing more than one. And then the last buttons is considered buttons. And I believe that logic is also to make sure that it only increments by one. Then draw screen essentially just draws the screen with the new value of red and blue. And then this game over is the Boolean, and it's always either false or true, determining if they're touching. And if it's true, that means we will exit out of this if statement and then come here to this else statement and then turn the game off. And once we end the game, there is no way to come back to the other state of being able to play the game. But I believe in the prompt that says that's fine. Yeah. So I believe that's all the functionality that I want to show for this lab. So yeah, that's EGR425 Lab 1.